Ordinarily, I get up and I go swimming and I do the school run and I'm very like busy, 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 busy. Having this conversation with you today was really exciting to me. And I have a lot of energy. And so I needed to kind of manage my energy so that I bought it all now.
Yes.
Instead of doing the things where I just go, right, I've got to hit this and I do it in this order and I do it every day. I went, actually, I need to bring it all at 11 o'clock. I'm not going to go swimming. And at 11 o'clock, I'm really excited this conversation. I'm going to bring it all now. Instead of going, I'm going to beat myself up for not following exactly the routine that serves other purposes. This is what I'm focusing on today. I'm going to adjust myself, be adaptable and flexible, and make sure that I am present in this moment, not present in the other moments that actually today don't count so much.
This is Better Under Pressure with me, Sara Milne Rowe. The podcast where successful people share what they do to thrive under pressure. Working out the things that don't count so much in your day or your week can be tricky. It's very easy to fall into the trap that everything is a priority. In Alice Dyson's case, as CEO and founder of the dynamic entertainment and production company Framewood Media, it's particularly tough. Welcome to the Better Under Pressure podcast. I'm Sara Milne Rowe, and in this episode, I'm talking with Alice Dyson. A pioneering female leader in the music industry, Alice is a champion of innovation in media, storytelling and entertainment. Previously the director of the British Phone-agraphic Industry, she's been involved in everything from releasing films with Helena Bonham Carter to recording the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra in St Paul's Cathedral. She's also deeply passionate about sport, health and science, all of which has led her to creating Geo-genomix, a pioneering initiative to help people achieve better health outcomes through personalised insights. Today she shares, amongst other things, how, despite a chronic autoimmune condition, she's learnt to channel pressure into opportunity, what she means by navigating the nose, and what helps in her pursuit of making it into the England over 45 Masters hockey squad. Let's find out how she manages her energy to be better under pressure. Welcome, Alice. I'm very, very thrilled to have you on for many reasons, which I hope we'll dig into.
It's great to see you, Sarah. I'm very excited too, and I'm trying to contain all my excitement, which for me is quite hard.
Is it? Okay. Well, from somebody who's been so prolific in terms of a female leader within the music industry, and also I know that you're also an incredible hockey player, which I hope you'll get into and share more of. And I also know that you have an entrepreneurial energy that allows you to start things, close things, start things, close things. So how fantastic to be able to talk to you about pressure in all of those or some of those situations. So that's what I'd love us to do today, is just to have a little bit of a conversation around that. And as I've just said all of those, listed those off, Alice, what comes to mind when I mention pressure?
I actually spent quite a lot of time reflecting about this last night because I was trying to think about, like, how am I affected by pressure? And it occurred to me that I've never really considered it. Pressure isn't something I physically feel. And then I was reflecting on, why is that? So what is it that motivates me? How is it that I turn an idea into something real? What is, when I do feel overwhelmed, then I've never ever called it pressure. So I have really low blood pressure. So like, I just like, I don't feel under pressure in the way that pressure is exerted in a physical sense. So what does it look like? So for me, it's energy. So in my tummy, I feel great excitement. I feel a need to do something. So it's never been like a negative, overwhelming thing. It's a I want to do this. Where I perhaps don't achieve as well, it's perhaps because I just don't want to do it. And so I don't feel the pressure. I feel a lack of engagement. So I think as I've gone through my life, I've identified things that really speak to me and make me want to be involved and then focused and then determined to achieve them. And I think that's a really good lesson for people about, if they're really not interested, putting yourself under pressure or whatever we call it to engage can be a bit fruitless. And how are you going to live your best life, deliver it to the best of your ability, if it really you are doing something that doesn't interest you at all? So I've tried to do things that really interest me.
Right. Wow. And I mean, what's interesting about what you've just said there, I think, is the feeling in your tummy. I've had many people in these conversations talk about that sensation in their tummy as being a pressure or stress signal for them. And some completely have ways of turning that into what you've just said, the fuel. But what's different about what you've just said, for me anyway, is that you don't really call it pressure in the first place. So that feeling, that sensation you get in your body is a signal of excitement, which you don't have to frame it as excitement. It is excitement.
Yes, it's me talking to me. So it's my intuition or the signals I'm reading. They're telling me about how I need to respond and react. And they can signal danger. They can signal that something good's going to happen. But it's being in tune with them to make sure that you respond accordingly. And I think as children, we're much more attuned to our intuitive feelings than perhaps we are as an adult. So dialing back into them so that they are useful to you has been really important to the way I've achieved in different areas.
Yeah. So let's talk about the music, the corporate music journey that you've been on. I read somewhere where you just said there's a handful of women in the music industry in senior positions. So how have you used that energy, as you called it, to forge your path? And when has it been, give us some examples of when it's been challenged or how you've activated that energy for good for you.
So I came from a family of musicians. And so when reflecting about how I got into the music industry, it was fairly inevitable, actually. My mum is an enormous influence on my life, a great role model. My dad, neither of them demonstrated pressure. They both followed fairly vocational paths. So when they were taking part in their day-to-day jobs, they did it with great joy. So like a can-do, follow an interesting path. My mum did a PhD when she was 70. I always saw her going to work. I always saw her educating. She's an academic and she was a teacher, teaches music and has influenced so many people's lives on a community level, on an academic level. And actually that level of nurturing through my life of her influence has affected the way I do things, and in a really positive way. I'm very lucky. So there was very much a can do. It didn't occur to me that people would say no. Which is really helpful because you kind of go into things fairly blindly, ignorantly, and just expect to be able to navigate a yes. So that's kind of how I approached my early career. So I would be just like, well, why not? Why can't we do it like this? Well, this is a good idea. And so as a young music executive, I was just kind of enthusiastic and energetic. And that has a lot of value because actually lots of people aren't like that. They don't approach things with lots of enthusiasm. So where I lacked ability in certain areas and lack of experience, I brought a ton of enthusiasm and there's got to be a way we can achieve this. Or why not? And so I think that I was lucky enough to have people who believed in me along my career journey. And so they got behind me, and they were, whilst I clearly made mistakes and didn't necessarily know the best route, they helped me. And so I'm very grateful for those kind of mentoring relationships. But actually they were all men because there were very few women in the music industry. But I didn't view the difference. I just thought, well, I can do this, they can do this. It's a level playing field. I didn't really understand it wasn't a level playing field. But that didn't make any difference to me. I just kind of did it anyway.
Can you say more about the navigate a yes? And what happens when you go in with a navigate a yes energy and you face someone who's got a stuck no energy or a reason why not energy?
That can be super frustrating. I'm more frustrated by that as I kind of get older. But I had no radar for no. So and I think like youthful and blissful ignorance gets you a long way. People they want you to succeed. And so I do some mentoring now with younger people who are in the same kind of position I was. They're looking to navigate yeses. And it's much better to not say, well, when you hit a no, just like, you don't see them as no's. You just see them as kind of hockey cones to go round if you're doing a drill. You just, okay, well, we won't do it like that. Well, what about this? Well, your objection is that, but come on, really, let's go and have a cup of tea. Like, tea's good for everything. So there's like being dismissively charming but empathetic and being kind. It's ultimately, people mostly are nice and want other people to succeed. So if there is a definite hard stop no, then usually you'll find someone else who'll say yes, and you won't even acknowledge the no because it was just merely a little bump in the road that you found a way to navigate through.
Yeah. There feels a real also energetic conservation in that attitude as well.
Yeah. Well, you don't get beaten down by, they always say no to me. Like it's not really something I engage with. They're conversations I've never had with myself. I'd just be like, well, that didn't work, that approach. Well, like, how about this one? Or maybe that wasn't the right person to ask. Maybe I needed to ask somebody else. They don't perhaps share my vision. Perhaps I need to explain myself in a better way. Maybe I need to write it down. Maybe I need to present it. So I think it was with the good mentors I had would identify, this is a great idea, Alice, but what does it really look like? So like, have you got a budget for this? What's the plan? What's the timeline? You just need to go think about this and like put it down really simply, and then we'll go through it. And so the no would be a soft no. But it would require me to kind of take action and kind of put myself back in control. This is all within my gift to fix. So the objections they're not real objections.
What a great and healthy way of looking at things. Has that always worked for you, Alice? Like, what are the situations in your life where that attitude goes under pressure, if you see what I mean? Like, you're having to dig deep to stay there, to stay in that.
So health issues particularly. So in my 30s, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. And so suddenly I couldn't negotiate with myself to be better. My body's kind of stopped doing the things I wanted to do. So sport is a really big part of my life. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and like, it was very hard for me to walk and do anything that I had lost control of being able to lift up my arms, be able to walk very far. For someone like me who was all about being very mobile, physically moving to get what I wanted done, I was suddenly forced. I couldn't do anything. I had very young children. I couldn't pick them up. It was like, it was devastating to me. I recognized that I needed help, and I needed to find the best people. So I needed experts in their field. I needed to be diagnosed properly. I needed to find a way where I had no control to take control. And so whilst I now live with an autoimmune condition, I don't feel like it's in charge of me. So I feel like I'm in charge of it. And there'll be like, there's things that happen to me almost every day where I'm bumping up against what this condition does to me. But I find solutions and I find ways to do what I need to get done. I'm very at risk from infection, so I'll find the right antibiotics, I'll find the right specialists, I'll find the right way to get more sleep, I'll find the right food to put in my body so I can optimize myself, but also recognize when sometimes I need to kind of sit down and not be emotional all the time. So it's kind of giving my body for not doing all the things I expect of it in the way it used to do it, but kind of finding a new way through. And so it's the bumps in the road. They're not stop signs. They're just things you have to navigate around. And so it's the same so hockey is a big part of my life. I love playing sport. I want to be better and I always want to achieve more. And so I'm trying to raise my standards all the time. And at the same time, I'm getting older. And so my body it hurts much more. And I have to be realistic. But I know that there are things I can do. So I'm trying to get in the England over 45s master squad at the moment. It's really important to me. It might not be important to anyone else. They might not love hockey like I do, like certainly my children do not love hockey, but I love it and it gives me great joy. And I was told at the training camp last week, roll strong. Physically, I don't know what I'm going to be doing at this point. And I know I've got another session in a few weeks, that in 3 weeks' time, I need to, when I'm shouted at to do that, I have to be able to do it. Otherwise, I won't go any further, because it's one of the basic skills that they will demand from me. And if I can't execute it better than anyone else, or even at all, I'm cut. Now, if I don't do that in the next 3 weeks, that's my fault. I have an opportunity to find someone who can explain to me what it is exactly my body has to do. I can form that muscle memory in that time, and so that it becomes a natural habit and I don't have to think about it anymore. It's part of my game, and therefore I will raise my game and I'll be much better if I'm selected to progress further. But these are all within my gift to do. If I don't do it and then I go to the training and I'm shouted at to roll strong and I reverse back out, I do some silly stick maneuver and it's not what I'm meant to do, I'm cut. It's my gift to choose. So I have a choice. Whether I'm at the standard of everyone else, that's a different issue. But I can take all of these things and I can do the best I can be if I choose to. If I choose that actually I'd rather sit on the couch and not engage with this, I know what will happen. There's no pressure there. It's just choices.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know me, I absolutely love this. This is why I wanted these conversations. It's all choices. It's all choices we make, but there are certain situations where choices feel harder than others, right? I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, what the hell is a roll strong for a start? So anyone else who's listening to this who knows nothing about hockey.
I didn't know. That's why I had to go and ask an expert. No, I do know. But my muscle memory is not. It's where you get your body in the position to be really secure and strong with the ball and you protect it. But that's the same when you stand up and you present. You stand up and you do it in a way. You don't cross your body in. These are just little things that I need to get in a position to be able to protect the ball in hockey. And then when I try and do something clever, I can do that.
Yeah.
If I want to present to an audience, I need to stand up tall. I need to engage with them. I need to look at them. I need to do all of these things. That every action, there is a skill set to make you better at it. So, and if you can't do it, you find someone who can, and you get them to teach you.
Yeah.
So that you can be.
And on the backdrop of someone with a severe autoimmune condition that you've been working with, right, for years. So let's just remember that, right? This isn't just learning a roll strong as a particularly autoimmune free body. This is from someone who got herself from a position of not being able to pick her children up, I'm hearing, to now wanting to be part of the England above 45 team. I mean, how the hell? I mean, that's brilliant. I know Alice is talking about a specific manoeuvre in hockey, but what she's highlighting for me here is the power of choosing to become better at something because on some level it matters to you, because it's worth it. There's something really powerful about identifying that one skill that can elevate your entire game. The ripple effect that focusing on that one thing can create. Most people we work with want to become better at something. Identifying the skill, though, likely to make the biggest impact in them achieving it is the key part. It may well take time to uncover what that one skill is. You know, we might know that we want to be better at, say, making decisions or better at understanding someone or at getting more sleep, but we're often less clear about what that specific skill is that will help us make progress, that needs more of our attention. And I say this because what I find interesting about what Alice is sharing is that she's already pretty good at hockey, better than most of us probably, well, certainly me, but she has a desire to be even better, to keep learning so that she can play in the England over 45 hockey team. And for her, that means getting better at executing a roll strong. So if you're listening to this and you know you want to improve something, ask yourself, what's the specific skill most likely to get you there? Because it takes discipline to keep learning, to choose to apply the effort, particularly if you're already good at something. But there are 4 key elements that can help. 1, know why it's worth it. Fire up your spirit for why it matters. Yes, it's a vital ingredient, but desire on its own is rarely enough. If we take Alice, for example, hockey gives her joy. And to make the England over 45 team, as well as managing rheumatoid arthritis, sends a message to others with the same condition that it's possible. And that's important to her. 2. Take time to identify the specific skill, the one likely to create the biggest impact to get you there. 3. Pay attention to it, practice it and adapt it. Any new skill needs drilling. And finally, ask yourself who can help you. We often make faster progress when someone else is supporting us, either as a cheerleader or as a model of excellence, someone who's already doing it that we can learn from. When we choose what we want to be better at, we tap into intrinsic motivation rather than external pressure. That allows us to bring our full energy into the learning process. Growth often comes from fine-tuning what we're already good at, not dramatic reinvention, but thoughtful refinement. Direct your energy with precision towards that one thing that will unlock the next level of growth for you. Now, back to Alice.
Part of my health journey has been really important to my motivation for living the rest of my life well. And actually some of the my career choices now are encompassing all of those things. So I'm launching a brand called Geo-genomix, which is about your genetics, your economics and your geography. So all of these things, if you can understand where you live, where you come from, and the resources and foods you have access to, how can you be in charge of your best life? So every setback, if you call it a setback, I've encountered, I've tried to bring it in to learn something from. And then I try to share my experience, or I want to share my experiences with other people who may find these challenges hard to navigate, or they want to ask someone who's gone through the same thing. I wrote an article some years ago when I was first trying to get into the England squad, when I just turned 40, and it was read by a girl who also had RA, and she played hockey, and she read it, and by coincidence I had a physiotherapist, and it was this girl who'd read my article. And so she was treating me, and she said, I read your article and I played hockey and I read it. And my mum showed it to me and she said, look, this woman is still playing hockey and actually everything's okay. It wasn't the end of her life. She found a way to get experts to help her. She got a good diagnosis and therefore you can go on and achieve these things. And so this was really nice to hear, because it would be a shame for all of my challenges to not amount to something that can help other people if that's the case. And particularly, I'm keen to help other women who find it hard to navigate sport, work, just to be the best selves, so that they can lean in and then navigate whatever route appeals to them, and know that they actually have it in them to do that with the right support.
Yeah. I mean, you and I, we connected, didn't we? When and we've still got a conversation to have about autoimmune, because I mean, I haven't got the same autoimmune, but I, was diagnosed with an autoimmune in the last sort of 5 years, and I've also just gone down that route of having a proper sort of DNA analysis and to understand all of the players. But what's this raising for me, in the light of the conversation around pressure, which is very helpful and useful, is you sort of almost need data and your spirit, right? Like spirit, I mean, I'm a really big believer, and people will hear me banging on more and more about spirit and discipline, but it's this combination of both spirit and discipline that I think allows us to make the choices that you're describing in such a way that you can take action and feel like you're making some sort of progress in a situation where maybe somebody else might think, I'm done for. I had Claire Danson on the podcast. She's got through remarkable situations, and is now a Paralympic, despite being paralyzed from a very, tragic accident. And these conversations are hugely inspiring and motivating, not because you have to be like wanting to necessarily be a Paralympic or work for, have an England squad, but I just think all of us have so much agency in our body if we choose to connect with it in a difficult situation, or anything that is feeling like it's producing some sort of, hopefully, pressure, but positive pressure, or stress, not distress. You know, it's that very fine line, isn't it? When you've got that tipping point where actually something is hugely galvanizing and enlivening, and then just in a second it can actually break down into something that is not.
Absolutely right. I've recently just done the DNA test as well, and it's forming part of the Geo-genomix band. It's taking what we know about our environment, what intuitively we know. I got my results this week, and they literally have blown my mind, because my intuition reflects in my DNA. My DNA says I love to do sport, and I get great positive pleasure from doing the sport. I don't get any benefit from a weight loss point of view for sport. It's purely about what it gives me in terms of how I feel physically and emotionally. And so that's why sport has been a cornerstone for me through my life. So when I think about when I face challenges, what do I go back to? What's a consistent thing that makes me feel like I'm in control and kind of safe? Well, also it's sport. I played hockey since I was at secondary school, and I'm now 47, and hockey has been a consistent thing that I go to that gives me great pleasure. But it's there in my DNA. I've listened to my body. I've tuned into it really early, and it's been a player through my life, and I'm very, very grateful to that. When I was 10, I found the headmaster at my primary school, and I said, "Can I play football? I'm better than all the boys at football. You know, can I play football?" And he said, "No, sorry about that." I said, "But I'm better than everyone." He said, "Girls don't play football, Alice." And it put a fire in my belly. I was mad, and I didn't understand. And I got to secondary school, and the girls play hockey, and I actually picked up a hockey stick, and I loved it. And so, whilst I was super frustrated at the time, I'd have ended up trying to pursue football. But I loved hockey. Hockey's been something that has given me so much through my entire adult life. And so whilst I was, as I say, mad as hell with the headmaster at the time, it was the times we lived in. If I'd really wanted to find a football club and play football, I would have. But I didn't. And I found hockey, and I found a club, and I played it, and I loved it. And so navigating the yeses and the no's and making them into something that gives you a win. The win may not be what you're expecting, but being open to kind of alternative suggestions. It's like how do you navigate the no? Well, you don't necessarily see it as a no that closes all doors. It's an opportunity to explore others.
Yes. Absolutely, yes. There's so much there. But you've described it beautifully. What's been the hardest pressure for you to navigate?
So I think finding peace with my autoimmune disease. So because there's so much I don't understand. And so when I'm trying to push myself harder, and my body doesn't do what I want it to do. So that's super challenging. And what I'm finding, the ways I'm navigating it now is, Geo-genomix. There's so much data there now.
Yeah.
That wasn't available before.
Yeah.
And so when I push my body a bit harder. So like at the moment, I'm ramping up my sports activity. I'm ramping up my business activity. That hasn't given me more hours in the day. It's given, I need to achieve more in the same amount of time as I did when I wasn't trying to ramp up these things. So what can I do for myself to make sure I'm able to push that level higher? That means I need to understand more. So it's about what should I eat? How do I respond to sleep? How do I respond to caffeine? All of these kind of interesting, they're not interesting to everybody else, but I'm fascinated. And actually, the more I understand, the better I can perform. Yeah. Because it's at the margins now. It's about being like, you're already good, but you have to be even better, and you want to be in that elite group. And so, and some people will find it easier than you. So understanding the detail, like the devil is in the detail, particularly when you're trying to deal with understanding your body when it's really complicated. But so it's like finding the experts, getting the information, translating that into something that's achievable, having the right diet, having things that don't cause inflammation in your body.
Yes.
Protecting yourself from an infection if you can. Drinking more water, but being switched on to when you're not doing these things. The busier you get, the more likely it is for these things to fall away. But the more important it is for you to make sure you're actually doing these things.
Yeah.
Because it's when you push on, you have to have all the kit with you. As you know, when you're going over the summit, you need the right jacket.
Yeah. I mean, I think that point you've just made there is vital. And what I see a lot with the people that I work with, that we work with, is they're pushing on a lot right now, particularly. And what you just said was, in order to push on, you need to be aware of what you're doing in order to make sure that you've got the capacity to push on. So I think you said earlier on, not bypass that. And I think that's what a lot of people, and me included, find difficult, is to push on means bypassing the fuel that you need, or the data that you need, or the consequence of the problem you're trying to address. Like, if you ignore that, if you don't give it the stuff that you've been doing your research around, you fall into this trap of pushing on without anything.
Exactly. And so this morning is quite a good example. So I would ordinarily, I get up and I go swimming. And I do the school run, and I'm very like busy. Like, having this conversation with you today was really exciting to me. And I have a lot of energy. And so I needed to kind of manage my energy so that I bought it all now. So instead of doing the things where I just go, right, I've got to hit this X, Y, and Z, and I do it in this order, and I do it every day. I went, actually, I need to bring it all at 11 o'clock. So I'm not going to go swimming. I'm going to have all of my 5 cups of tea, because I love tea. And at 11 o'clock, I'm really excited this conversation. I'm going to bring it all now. And so instead of going, I'm going to beat myself up for not following exactly the routine, that is for something else. It serves other purposes. This is what I'm focusing on today. I'm going to adjust myself, be adaptable and flexible, and make sure that I am present in this moment, not present in the other moments that actually today don't count so much.
That's such a great example of being a real, what I would call a real scientist on your own behavior. And it's also a lovely antidote to this whole idea that in order to be really efficient, you're up at 5, you're smashing it by 5:30, you're doing something it doesn't. What I really appreciate about your share here, Alice, is that there are different ways of adaptability without necessarily feeling like you're not backing yourself.
Exactly.
And we have a phrase in our company where we say, we're helping clients identify their what we call critical impact opportunities, or moments that matter in a day, because you can't actually do everything at 110% across the whole day. You have to identify where your energy really, really matters for the impact that you want to create for yourself or for other people. And so the back-to-backness of how we're operating at the moment just doesn't really work. And you've just shared a really intriguing example of how, on a day where you knew you wanted to be at your best with the energy that you had at 11 o'clock, you had to do something different before 11 o'clock to be able to conserve it. That, I think, is gold dust for how we're living right now. To be really...
Yeah, well, I come back to sport.
Yes.
It's making sure that you've eaten the right stuff. You're looking to peak at a very particular time in the day.
Yeah, yes.
And I'm interested in so many different things. And so my attention can be like all over the place. Making sure that I'm very present for the thing that really matters has taken a level of maturity I didn't have when I was in my 20s. So I wish I had had it then, to be fair. But I bought loads of other things back then. Not knowing things is really useful sometimes. And just being innocent and enthusiastic and energetic about something is equally valuable at a time as being actually a bit wiser.
Yes.
Knowing that you have less energy, conserving it, eating the right foods, sleeping right, knowing that if you eat a particular meal the night before, you play a sport is actually really helpful. So, you know, your body, it's a long game. Your body is a long game. So you're dialing into that and listening to that and understanding all the external factors is really useful. If that's what interests you, it really interests me a lot.
Me too.
I know it interests lots of people I talk to. It doesn't interest everybody.
No.
So actually understanding that as well. So when you're kind of waxing lyrical about something, it's not everybody's kind of interest. So you might dial it down a bit.
Yeah, although anyone who's interested in performance and wanting to improve and make different choices in their life, it's what I would say, it's real basic elemental stuff that needs to be understood, and the way that it works with your body needs to be understood. And I like that distinction you make in terms of we're all very different. And what I love about the DNA test is what's right for me may not be right for someone else. You know, in the bog standard summary of what's meant to be good for you may not be good for you, actually, because once you understand the chemicals in your actual particular, you know, it's good to know that.
There are two important principles I'm hearing in what Alice shares here. Firstly, choose in advance which part of your day really matters to you. Where in your day or your week do you want to be 110% on your game? It's important to choose those moments, like Alice did, but it often means compromising on other moments. What does that look like, sound like, feel like? It's so much better to actively create your week rather than wandering aimlessly through it. Secondly, make sure you have the fuel in your tank to deliver on that commitment. As Alice puts it, when you push on, you need the right kit. And to remember that our body is a long game. The fueling process is an individual one, always has been, and it varies significantly from person to person, chemically, and also varies depending on what's happening in our lives. Track what works for you and keep adjusting. To understand your unique energy patterns, self-inquiry is fundamental. Discovering your individual formula is more valuable than following any generic advice.
I phoned my mum, so I was on my way to my hockey training on Wednesday night. I said, Mum, you're never going to guess what, I've had my DNA results. And it says, unsurprisingly, I love sport. And she went, yeah, I totally didn't get that gene, did I? So for my mum, she does not like sport. I've never seen my mum run for a bus. I've never seen her partake in any sporting activity ever. She definitely does not have this gene. And I definitely do have this gene. My mum has done her very best to support me in my sporting ambition, but she is not interested. You know, so we found other ways to connect, you know. So she's absolutely at the top of her game academically. She follows very different interests to me, but we kind of actually follow them in a similar way. So she gets pleasures from academics, from books. She opened a bookshop 10 years ago. She's now 77. So she's looking to still achieve, still do really interesting things, but they're in different we're in different playgrounds, but we share our desire to do things that are interesting and to be inclusive, have an effect on other people in some way that is positive.
Yeah, I hear that. And also I hear an element of real commitment to it as well. Like you're not touching the surface of these passions or these real interests. They are deep dives, both for your mother and for you.
For sure. But I had a wonderful role model. So in terms of the apple doesn't fall from the tree, whilst we may be scientifically, you know, different, the way she has pursued her dreams and she has shown me, she has nurtured that ability in me for me to follow my dreams, although my dreams are different.
Yes.
So, and I think
sort of habits and choices. She's been a model of the choices and the habits she's made. Yeah.
Looking the other way, just with my children. They don't follow in my same dreams, but I can role model and I can nurture them in how they may go forward. But I respect that they will not have the same goals as me, but the route there may be similar. It just may be a different goal.
Yes. It feels like there's a lot of energy of interrogation in your life, right? How do you switch off I'm not talking about sleep, by the way.
Yeah. So that's a. I don't actually know. Or I probably do. But I most certainly do know. But the recovering from something suggests that I need to have a rest. Sometimes recovering means actually a recovery day isn't doing nothing. Essentially, it's getting your body in the best position to go again. And so sometimes that may mean doing things in a different way. So a recovery day in sport is actually not lying on the couch. It's stretching, it's eating well, it's having water, stretching your muscles, seeing a specialist in sports massage who'll come and help you, because it's too hard to do yourself. You actually need someone to come and stretch you or massage you or do whatever it is. So to recover, I look again to the best people who can help me understand what recovery looks like. So recovering for me may actually be going for a walk, listening to music, swimming. You know, sound is a really important sense to me. And so a metronomic sound, so repetitive sounds. I swim, and I swim maybe a kilometre, and it's metronomic. And so I find deep calm and peace in swimming, and so swimming for me is recovery day, because I'm finding lots of calm. Literally, the water is a cocoon. You can't take your phone in there. No. Literally, nobody can talk to you or bother you. I'm going through a habitual motion, and as I swim, ideas come and go. I'm very present. I find calm, and so that for me that's what a recovery day looks like, going for a kilometre swim. For someone else, that is not a recovery day.
No.
That's their idea of hell.
Yeah. Again, it's like Matt, who I spoke to last year on this, he said, rest day is a training day, he called it. And for you, it's a bit like you. For him, it is doing something, but something that allows... I think the idea of recovery doesn't mean you don't do anything for some people. For some, it does. Some recovery is lying down, reading a book, or going for a walk, or doing nothing, literally doing nothing. But again, these are really interesting and useful questions to ask yourself. And I think, I don't know about you, Alice, I think it does change with age and circumstance and environment.
For sure. Absolutely, no question. I think being... aware that your wants and needs are going to change as you transition in different phases through your life, and that's fine. That's good.
Yes. Yes. It's good if you sit and notice it. When I'm talking to people, sometimes they are doing something that served them well 10 years ago, and actually the realization is it no longer serves them in quite the same way. So it's almost like updating it.
You're absolutely spot on. What serves you well today doesn't necessarily, you don't need in the same way later. And changing your habits and being alive to changing your habits is key. So your 7 highly effective habits, I think there's a book about the 7
Yes,
highly
Covey. Yeah.
What worked for me in my 20s isn't the same as in my 30s. My emotional needs have changed. I've become a mother. My need to fulfill that role I didn't have in my 20s. I had little children in my 30s. I now have teenagers.
Yeah,
we're all evolving and growing together.
Yeah,
and understanding what that group dynamic looks like means that what serves you as a very focused person in your 20s does not serve the family unit in your 40s.
No.
If you want to nurture different areas, you have to recognize what they are in order to deliver that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Out of everything that you said, or maybe something else as well, what would be 2 things that you would pay forward to anyone listening to this podcast who would like to be better under pressure?
Be kinder to yourself than perhaps you think you need to be. Forgive yourself when you can't do the things, and find another way, because continuing to try to do the same thing over and over again in the same way, if it doesn't work, is like, there lies madness.
Yeah.
If you expect a different answer when you keep trying to do the same thing, and that's no good for anyone. So just kind of forgive yourself sometimes if you get it wrong. The race, whilst it may feel like it's just, the race is with yourself ultimately. So recognize that if you're going to win, you've got to be kind to yourself.
Yes. And the second one?
What was the question?
Two things that you would pay forward. So that was one. One is being kind to yourself and giving yourself a break, I'm hearing, and know that actually you can adapt. What other one would you put your money against?
Drink more tea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've said you need to have your 5 cups of tea or whatever it is that you have. I'm hearing in that, Alice, it's knowing what it is that soothes you.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to take a moment. So, and sometimes a cup of tea is a great one for self-soothing. It can be shared with someone, a good conversation. So sometimes it's just taking a moment and then working out perhaps how you solve the problem you're in. And that might literally be a cup of tea by yourself. You talk to your best friend about something not remotely connected, and you kind of enrich your soul, that enables you just to step out of it and then reflect and step back into it with a new view and a new perspective, like being agile, I guess.
I love that. We once had a builder working here, and we'd find him sitting on a doorstep, like just on his own. And he said, I'm having a polo moment, which was literally, he'd got stuck with something and he just would put a polo in his mouth and he'd sit down and consider it. And the length of time it took for that polo to melt in his mouth was the time that he gave himself to solve the problem that he was facing. So we've got this phrase in our house, I'm taking a polo moment, but for you it's take a tea.
Yeah, take a tea or 5. That's right.
Yeah, or 5. Brilliant, Alice. Thank you so much. What an interesting and stimulating conversation.
It's lovely to talk to you, as always.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Better Under Pressure with me, Sara Milne Rowe. If you enjoyed it, please do subscribe and let us know what you found useful or what you'd like to know more about. And don't forget, if you'd like to sign up for our fortnightly Pressure Points newsletter, where I summarise key points from each conversation, you can find a link at saramilnerowe.com. If you're interested in any of the practices mentioned, check out my book, The Shed Method. Alternatively, you can find us at Coaching Impact or me on LinkedIn and Instagram. Better Under Pressure was produced by the fab team at Smart Cookie Media. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, goodbye.